Welcome to ZakDTV, the place for interesting news from around the net. In today's episode, we are going to talk about a new species of sunfish, the odd way that sperm whales sleep, and we'll wrap up with 2 elephants that needed to be rescued by the Sri Lankan Navy. And remember, if you want interesting news 7 days a week, go ahead and click that subscribe button right over here. Alright, let's get right into this. Like I said, we're going to start off with sunfish. These gigantic monsters of the deep. I mean, they can grow to weigh 5,000 pounds. They could be 10 foot long and 15 feet wide. They can dive 2,000 feet looking for their prey. They eat mainly jellyfish. They like to float on top of the ocean and sunbathe. Well, up until recently, scientists only thought there were 3 different species of sunfish worldwide. But we've come to find out that's not true, and there's a 4th. They first got the idea that there might be a 4th type of sunfish because of a skin sample researchers in Japan did a DNA profile on, and it didn't quite match the other samples they had for other sunfish. Well, 4 years ago, Marion Nygaard started her research for her PhD. She sat down and analyzed 150 different samples of sunfish DNA, and she kept finding that weird DNA. It didn't match with any of the other species that have been found. So she thought, aha, this has got to be it. Well, over the next 4 years, she jumped on every chance to try to find and describe this elusive sunfish. In fact, because of this, she called it the hoodwinker sunfish, or mola tecta, which in Latin means hidden. And back in 2014 is when she got her huge break. She received a picture that year of a sunfish that was hauled on board of a fishing vessel to get it untangled from the lines. They took a photo, took a DNA sample, sent that to her, and put the fish back in the water. And that's the first time she noticed the difference between that fish and the rest of them that had been seen. Well, not long after, she got the call of her life. 4 sunfish washed up on a beach in New Zealand. Now, immediately, she jumps on a flight, gets there, and boom. There it is, the first specimen of this new fish that she's ever laid her hands on. The big difference between this fish and other sunfish that are out there is this one has a segmented tail. It's segmented by a little bit of cartilage. It doesn't grow bumps all over like most sunfish do. And it doesn't grow a snout, which is a little odd. But they say now, after more years of research, the young look the same, which that's a young fish right there. Isn't that weird? Now she finally released her paper that gives her findings, and we do have a new species of sunfish, the first one found in 130 years. To me, that's amazing, and it really shows you what could be hidden in our oceans if something this big can remain unidentified for 130 years. Alright, next, this one's just real quick. Look at this. That is how sperm whales sleep. How cool is that? I never saw this before. If you have, I'm sorry, but I'm sharing it with you because I found it interesting. Scientists first observed this behavior back in 2008. It's been photographed a couple times since then, but I've never seen it before. They achieve this by descending several times their body length into the ocean. Then they flip themselves upright and fall asleep as they slowly rise to the top. They are completely motionless and don't breathe during this time, obviously, or they drown just like a human would. And they say that sperm whales around the world all sleep the same way. They only sleep for about 10 to 15 minutes and awaken as soon as one of them's disturbed, which is a little odd. You gotta wonder how they communicate that, hey, I'm awake, to the rest of them, because it seems like an immediate reaction. Scientists also say they only spend about 7% of their life sleeping. I couldn't do that. I strive for half my life. Oh, I'm kidding. But there you have it. That's how sperm whales sleep. Pretty cool, right? And finally, if you've been watching the news, you know that about 2 weeks ago, the Sri Lankan army saved a whale that was stranded about 5 miles off their coast and drug him back to land. The poor animal would have drowned if he was left out there. Well, here we are about 2 weeks later, and they saved 2 elephants this time. I know, right? Strange. I wonder if they're doing it for the views. They say these 2 animals, shown here, were brought back ashore after a mammoth effort, their words, not mine, that involved Navy divers, ropes, and a flotilla of boats. According to the Navy, having safely guided the 2 elephants to the shore, they are subsequently released to the Foul Point jungle. So basically, they got them in, and these elephants beelined it right back into the jungle where they belong. Researchers believe that these elephants keep getting swept out to sea when they cross these shallow lagoons and get swept downstream and emptied out into the ocean. While elephants are very strong swimmers, Unfortunately, there's a limit to anyone's abilities. But here we have it. In 2 weeks, 3 elephants been saved. Those are some pretty good numbers to me. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for stopping in. I do this 7 days a week with a live stream on Saturday and a short on Sunday. So I hope to see you here again tomorrow. But if I don't, remember, have fun and be safe.